to do some shows in small buildings with these guys to develop talent, just to give these guys more experience. And even knowing that you can't make money on that, there's certainly an argument for that. There's an argument for WWE doing the same thing. It was an argument that people had a long time for WWE when they were losing money on the NXT brand. But now, WWE is about maximizing profits, and perhaps that's short-term thinking. Time will tell. But they decided against doing it. So anyway, that's the basic situation with the deal. Hopefully by the next couple of days, we'll hear a lot more about what the wrestling end of the Ring of Honor deal means, as far as aside from the tape library end.
All right, before we get to Tony Khan's press conference, Cain Velasquez was formerly charged Wednesday with attempted premeditated murder. 9 other charges: attempted premeditated murder, shooting at an occupied motor vehicle or aircraft, 3 counts of assault with a firearm, 3 counts of assault with a deadly weapon, willfully discharging a firearm from a vehicle, and carrying a loaded firearm with intent to commit a felony. And he's accused of targeting Eugene Goularte, who was charged Friday with allegedly molesting one of Velasquez's relatives who was under the age of 10. On Monday, Velasquez allegedly followed him, engaged in an 11-mile high-speed chase throughout San Jose, rammed the truck, shot a .40 caliber handgun repeatedly into the truck, striking Goularte's stepfather, 63-year-old Paul Bender. He shot the wrong guy. Bender was shot once in the arm and torso and is expected to survive. The district attorney stated the sad tragedy is that Mr. Velasquez chose to take the law into his own hands, endangering the public and everyone in the truck. This act of violence also causes more pain and suffering to his family. He is still held without a bail.
This is a really sad story. I think that, there's a lot of people very sympathetic to Cain. He did the wrong thing. And I can say this is someone who knows him, knows his wife. My daughter and his daughter. By the way, just to make this clear, because there's a lot of stuff going on the internet that this was his daughter, and it was not his daughter. Okay, just so everyone knows, it was a family member, but not the daughter. The daughter's, I think, 12 years old. Daughter used to play with my daughter, when they were both very young, as a matter of fact. So when the word was first out, everybody assumed it was the daughter. A lot of us were really freaking out over that one. But there's no less freaking out over the story because it's not the daughter either. It's a horrible, horrible situation. I have great sympathy for him, but you can't go firing. There were 3 people in the car. Okay, so here's the situation. A family member, and we're all going to use the term family member because it is someone underaged, under the age of 10, who, is a sexual assault victim, alleged sexual assault victim, okay? Cain's relative was going to a daycare. It's a home daycare in San Martin, which is about 5 miles from his house or so. He lives in Morgan Hill, and so it's just outside of San Jose, and so the relative has been going there for about 2 years, and I guess on Friday, the stepson of the woman who ran the place was accused, taken in on charges of molesting a child. And there was a lot of testimony, and he was let out on bail on Friday. And I guess, it wasn't like on Friday he went crazy, Cain. On Saturday night, Cain, his whole family, the whole family went to Pro Wrestling Revolution Lucha Libre show at Mount Pleasant High School in San Jose. They were all there. They were all having a good time on Saturday night after this. Monday, whatever. He gets his gun. He goes on a high-speed chase. He finds them in the car. There were 3 people in the car. There was the woman who runs a daycare center. It was his wife, who's not the father, but the stepfather of, the guy who's accused of this. And he starts firing shots. The woman and the stepfather had no idea and didn't believe the story. What they know and what they don't know, I don't know. There were claims that, there's allegations that the guy did it to other kids. If he did, it's probably, if he did it to one, could you believe he could do it to others? Is it horrible? It's fucking horrible. It's the worst. And I can see why he flew off the handle. So he chased the car for about 11 miles in high-speed chase in Morgan Hill area, San Jose area on Monterey Highway, crashed into the car and started shooting. There were 3 people in the car. The woman was there, the stepfather, and the alleged perpetrator. He hit the stepfather. He hit the wrong guy. Could have hit the woman who was his, who he'd been sending his kids to daycare with for, shouldn't say kids, but he had been sending a relative to daycare with for a couple of years. And man, the whole thing is just so freaking horrible. What can you say? I mean, everyone can sympathize with him for whatever. And, there's the question is why when he crashed the car, why did he start shooting? Why didn't he just pull the guy out and beat the hell out of him? I don't know. He had a gun with him. He's thinking what he's thinking. What can you say? I mean, I don't know what to say more, but it is such a horrible story. And, a jury might be very sympathetic to him, but he might be serving time. He did, they said, he did not help his family by doing this. But he wasn't, it's a crime of passion. He wasn't thinking rationally, even though it was several days later. And it's like, man, it's like a nightmare. It really is when I think about it. Cause, for a guy who used to be maybe the baddest man on the planet, you know what I mean? He was a nice guy. I never, he's lived here in San Jose for, right, since he got out of college, so about 14 years, right? Something like that, 14 years-ish, and, I obviously knew about him. I knew people who trained with him from day one, I could talk about that. But the point is that I never heard of him having I never heard of him getting into fights other than in the cage and other than in the gym, but those are gym sparring fights. It's not like he got into fights and beat people up in the gym. It's not like you would hear, he was not a bully or he was anything but. He was, very quiet guy, not a big talker or anything like that. Very, internalized guy. You know what I mean? He's one of those guys where you can tell he's talking, but doesn't, he's always thinking, but doesn't talk a lot. And when he does talk, he really thinks before he kind of gives an answer. And, a lot of reporters had a tough time with him because he's not that guy who's going to say really colorful things or anything like that he's kind of just a quiet guy. And there's one of the things that hurt him as a pro wrestler, in as far as WWE version of pro wrestling is that, he's not a naturally charismatic talker. But he's not a troublemaker. I mean, it's though, he would never do anything like this except in a situation like this. And unfortunately, what he did was, just a terrible, terrible situation, because again, the 2 people in that car were innocent and he could have killed either of them. And he could have killed the guy who maybe isn't innocent. I mean, I don't want to say he's guilty, but, he was arrested. And there was, certainly there was reason to believe. There's certainly suspicion. There were claims. There was an arrest on on Friday, like I said. So, man, it's just a sad situation. And, like he had, obviously, you'll see all the fighters, all the fighters are pretty much backing him because, he's their friend, and nobody really wanted to talk about it. I know he hasn't done any interviews or anything like that. Just hasn't talked to anybody, and it's going to be a tough case. I mean, perhaps the jury will be very sympathetic to him, and they will be. But again, he shot someone who was not the perpetrator, and he's charged with attempted murder because he was shooting at people. And man, what a horrible situation. I don't know what else to say.
All right, back to the press conference with Tony Khan. What else did he talk about here today? Cody and a number of other topics?
Yeah, so the Cody thing, he basically explained the Cody thing. He said, because he was asked, wasn't there an option year? And then he said that there was. But he said that they were not talking about just renewing the option year, that they were negotiating a totally new contract, which tells me that either, because the option year would be at there was a number in the option year. I don't know the exact numbers, but the numbers for the option years are higher numbers than the first 3 years. So it would be a raise if he did the option year. If they're talking about a new contract, perhaps he was talking about a contract at a lower number. I don't think so. But he thought that they had a deal made, and they didn't have a deal made. And he said, yeah, he could have renewed it, although he didn't. But if you don't renew it by the whatever the day is, which I think would be like December 31st or whatever day Cody signed the 3-year mark of that deal, so it might be a couple days into January, whatever it is on that date. If he doesn't renew the option by that date, he can't say January 10th, right? They're negotiating this new deal, which they were, and he said that they were very close, and he thought he was going to keep him. All of a sudden, on January 10th, when this negotiation, let's say, falls through, I'm just throwing out a date, he can't go back and go, oh, I can just renew you for your option. He's already failed to do that. But he also said that if he wasn't happy here and wanted to leave, he didn't want to keep him. And obviously Cody got a great offer. And, I know a lot of people now think, oh, Cody's going to run Ring of Honor. And it's just and I've been asked that by many people today. Oh, it was all a swerve. Cody's going to run Ring of Honor. And it's it's not. He got a better offer. Or in his mind, a better offer. And he, in whatever fashion. And that's the deal with Cody. Talked about, he was asked about Jeff Hardy. There's nothing he could say about Jeff Hardy. What are you going to say? He said, Jeff Hardy's a great guy. He's under contract to another company. Look, we all know that Jeff Hardy is most likely coming in. Jeff Hardy himself said it until he realized that, oh my God, I just fucked up. And so he had to say, I didn't mean it, because it's of course he's coming in. I mean, unless something falls through. I mean, it's understood. Everyone in wrestling knows it. But you can't say it. Jeff Hardy today is under contract at WWE. If you say that, it's freaking admission of tampering. You already got freaking Jeff saying it's already a problem, probably with WWE, because of course they're looking to do something legally in this situation. I mean, they're looking for that mistake. I mean, it's this is a wrestling war, you know what I'm saying? So, he said what he could say. March 9th, it all changes. Then Jeff Hardy's a free agent, and he can come in at any point after that point. Now, with Claudio Cesaro, he's a free agent today. Tony just said that he's a great talent, phenomenal athlete, great ring psychologist, great mind for wrestling. He likes him. Said we're